At number 10 spot, we have the Watana deserted house. I mean, by the looks of it, this place already looks like the set of a horror movie. And things weren't far from that, because it said that whoever enters this abandoned house will leave cursed and their lives will be met with a terrible fate. Yeah, kinda harsh. In the Watana district of Bangkok, rumor has it that in 2015, a group of early teenagers entered the house and they were just set out to be partying, and they entered the house high on alcohol and other narcotics.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
The reason they entered the house in the first place was because locals already claimed that the house was haunted, so the boys decided to go check it on themselves. This ended up being a very terrible decision later on. It said that whoever enters the house will have one of the home spirits attached to them. And it wasn't until 3 months after, when 2 of the boys were fatally wounded in a motorcycle accident, then a whole year later, a 3rd boy also got into a fatal accident. Then in the next year, 2 more of the boys lost their lives in a house fire. The odd thing about all these deaths was that the witnesses claimed that they saw a woman in white sitting on the backs of the motorcycles before their fatal accidents and entering the house before it was engulfed in flames. So who knows if she's related to any of this. At our number 9 spot, we're the St. Thomas Psychiatric Hospital. St. Thomas Psychiatric Hospital opened its doors in 1939, and at its peak it served over 1,700 patients. It would eventually be left abandoned in the summer of 2013. However, in the time that the facility was active, it housed a few notorious patients who committed some of the most violent deeds, including impaling, strangling, and torturing. Yeah, not the best kind of hospital. People in the hospital claimed to hear random sounds such as banging, crying, and even whispering in their ear. And they also reported seeing flickering lights and moving objects during their visits. Today, there is a heightened security at the site, but it may be possible to have a short wander across the grounds where the old hospital once stood during daylight hours. But I'd still recommend you not going there just in case. At number 8 spot, we have the St. George Church. This creepy looking church was built in the 14th century and can now be found in the Czech town of Lukova. The now abandoned St. George Church is not only menacing on the outside, but also on the inside. However, after years of preaching the word of God, the church was eventually closed down in 1960. Ever since its closure, many visitors have claimed that it has been home to many different spirits, including demonic entities. When the church's roof collapsed in 1968, the residents boarded up immediately, believing it was a bad omen. Instead, services were held outside of the church. Despite this, residents still wanted it restored, so what did they do? They ordered an artist to create an art installation in order to raise funds for the project. So he created these 32 life-size ghosts, and this is what they look like sitting in the church. At our number 7 spot, we have the Sunland Hospital. Sunland Hospital once served as a tuberculosis hospital and later evolved into a training center for children with special needs. The facility closed after allegations of abuse and neglect and other various health code violations. The main patient building was turned into a park, and reports claim that ghostly patients still hang around it to this day. Park visitors reported hearing children's laughter when no one was around, and they also reported seeing strange lights everywhere. Some also laid claim that the swings and other playground equipment moved by themselves. Apparently, after being torn down in 1999, all that remains of the Sunland facility is the old administration building. There was a Sunland hospital in Tallahassee too, but the location was closed down also due to a lot of issues. At number 6 spot, we have the Old Charleston Jail. This has old in its name for a very good reason, and that reason was because this jail dates all the way back in 1802. This was a time when even the light bulb wasn't invented yet. Notable prisoners of this jail include Denmark Vesey, who was arrested for planning a slave uprising, and Lavinia Fisher, who is the country's first female serial killer. Pirates and Union soldiers were also held captive here, and many locals believe that the spirits and the souls of the incarcerated continue to reside behind the bars. Although it's abandoned, there's a few tours that go through this building, but if you want to see a few ghosts or two, you should definitely go on this tour, but you won't catch me there. In the Hanford list, we have the Brusnitsin Mansion. The somewhat elegant looking mansion is located in St. Petersburg, Russia. It was built by Nikolai Brusnitsin, who is a rich owner of the local tannery. The mysterious story of the building claims that here the famous Dracula mirror is being kept in a secret hiding place between the walls. According to local legend, the mirror was brought here in the 20th century from the Ventian Palazzo, where the dust of Dracula was being kept. Soon after the mirror appeared in the mansion, the granddaughter of the landlord suddenly passed away. After the revolution, the mirror was taken to the local Karab Palace of Culture, and then returned back to the mansion. After 2 more passes of residents of the mansion, the decision was made to hide the mirror in a secret place inside of the building, and until now, nobody has found it. Number 4, the Ridge Home Asylum. Ridge Home Asylum opened its doors in 1912, and from there began a history full of controversy. Many of the home's residents were admitted despite being still mentally capable, but over time their mental states declined due to their confinement. Rumors that patients were unnecessarily medicated arose, and over time parts of the building closed due to unsafe living conditions. Finally, in 1992, the doors of Ridge Home Asylum were closed for good, but that doesn't change the fact that many of the patients were mistreated there and passed away, and apparently they still remain in the building to haunt everyone who enters. At number 3 spot, we have the Bandung Octopus House. Located on Pasir Road in Bali lies this unusual house that can only be described as having a large octopus on the roof, hence the name Octopus House. Either you can view this as something cool or something really dark. There is no in between. And although much is unknown about this now abandoned house, it is said that it was built back in the 1990s, with sources claiming that the octopus started as a bright pink opposed to the fading black color it has today. Other than the creepiness given from just looking at this house, it is said that the house is used by the Church of Satan. Many stories have guests coming in the house completely normal, but they leave sick with bruises and scratches to accompany that. Other reports claim that Protestant ministers, cult members, and other naive teenagers come into the house to worship the devil. More skeptical, but others believe that the Illuminati takes turns in the house with a secret passage underneath it, but the only way to find out is to go devil worshipping. So probably not the best idea. Number 2, the house in Pinar del Rio. Although the date of when this house was built is completely unknown, what is known that it has been abandoned for the past 20 years. This property is located right at kilometer 78 off the highway that connects Havana with Pinar del Rio. And every time someone decides to visit this abandoned house, they always come out reporting something very strange and something supernatural. Former residents of the home have all left due to feeling uncomfortable in the house. For example, couples who stayed would slowly begin to argue more and more aggressively, and some have told others that it's impossible to sleep at nights because of the constant nightmares you get. Meanwhile, the residents of the area claim to see strange lights coming from the inside and have seen wild dogs enter the house, which are nowhere to be seen after. It's said that the house was originally built for a man named Juan, and eventually the house would start to present some supernatural activity. He would then go deaf and would live inside of this house with these spirits as his friends. Since the man has passed, the spirits of the house are unwelcoming. At number 1 spot, we have the Ryugyong Hotel. This 105-story hotel in Pyongyang, North Korea was completed in 1992, but by that time it didn't function as a hotel at all. The thing about this hotel in particular was that the entire building was hollowless and had no windows, which meant complete darkness on the inside. Kim Jong-un wanted this hotel to be the biggest and best hotel in the world, but it completely fell short of the goal as it still remains empty to this day. It's clearly just a large structure overlooking the city, and it's more scary to think that no one actually is inside of this building. In fact, this is the world's tallest unoccupied building. Now many theorists have claimed that the spirit isn't empty and it harbors something even more sinister. This may be a stretch, but some online communities have mentioned that many SCP and other governmental projects are being kept secret in this building, hence why they can never truly open it to the public.
Number 10, Centralia, Pennsylvania, USA. Centralia was once a vibrant coal mining town in the heart of Pennsylvania. In the mid-20th century, it boasted a thriving community of over 1,000 residents. The town had the typical features of a small American town, including homes, churches, schools, and businesses. However, Centralia's story took a drastic turn when an underground coal mine fire ignited in 1962. The fire, believed to have been ignited by a trash-burning pit, continued to burn relentlessly beneath the town's streets and homes, creating a perilous environment. The fire's dangerous underground conditions, toxic gases, and unstable ground forced the government to condemn Centralia. Residents were gradually relocated and the town's infrastructure was abandoned. Today, Centralia stands as a nearly desolate place, with a dwindling population of fewer than 10 residents. Number 9, Pripyat, Ukraine. Pripyat was conceived as a model Soviet city, constructed in the 1970s to house the workers of the nearby Chernobyl nuclear power plant. This modern city featured apartment buildings, schools, kindergartens, a hospital, a cultural center, and even an amusement park. The city's population numbered around 49,000 before the Chernobyl disaster. The town's abrupt closure occurred in 1986, following the catastrophic explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. This nuclear disaster led to the release of dangerous radiation. The entire city was swiftly evacuated, with residents leaving behind personal belongings and the life they once knew. Pripyat, within the Chernobyl exclusion zone, remains highly radioactive, making it one of the most famous ghost towns in the world. Buildings stand in various states of decay, offering a haunting glimpse into the past and the effects of a major nuclear catastrophe. Number 8. Hashima Island, Japan. Hashima Island, located off the coast of Nagasaki, Japan, was once a bustling coal mining community. It became a self-sustained island city with high-rise apartment buildings, schools, and recreational facilities to house its residents. Hashima Island is often referred to as Battleship Island due to its distinctive appearance from a distance. The island's abandonment took place in the 1970s as coal mining operations began to decline, resulting in the evacuation of its inhabitants. For many years, Hashima Island remained off limits to the public, accessible only to researchers and urban explorers. In recent times, it has gained recognition as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, allowing visitors to explore its decaying buildings, which have been shaped by the elements and the passage of time. Number 7. Bodie, California, USA. Bodie, nestled in the eastern Sierra Nevada mountain range, was a thriving gold mining town during the late 19th century. At its zenith, the population exceeded 10,000 residents, making it a lively and somewhat lawless place. The town featured numerous saloons, general stores, a red light district, and even a Chinatown. Bodie's eventual abandonment can be attributed to the decline of gold reserves in the area and the harsh winters that made life increasingly challenging. By the early 20th century, the town was largely deserted. However, the California State Park System recognized its historical significance and decided to preserve it in a state of arrested decay. Today, Bodie is a well-preserved ghost town, offering visitors a glimpse into the past through its well-maintained structures and artifacts. Number 6. Varosha, Cyprus. Varosha, located in Famagusta, Cyprus, was once a thriving tourist resort in the early 1970s. It was renowned for its luxurious hotels, pristine beaches, and vibrant nightlife. Celebrities and tourists flocked to Varosha to enjoy the Mediterranean paradise. The town's abrupt closure stemmed from the Turkish invasion of Cyprus in 1974, which resulted in the division of the island. Varosha was fenced off and abandoned, becoming a ghost town due to ongoing political disputes between Greek and Turkish Cypriots. Its opulent hotels, restaurants, and businesses have been frozen in time, their doors and windows sealed, leaving a surreal and melancholic ambience. Number 5. Kolmanskop, Namibia. Kolmanskop, situated in the Namib Desert, was a diamond mining town during the early 20th century. The town boasted grand houses with intricate, ornate interiors, a hospital, a theater, and a grand ballroom for the affluent diamond miners and their families. Kolmanskop's decline was the result of depleting diamond reserves. As the mining industry waned, the desert sands gradually consumed the town, infiltrating its once elegant interiors. Today, Kolmanskop is a popular tourist attraction, known for its sand-filled rooms, an eerie reminder of a bygone era and the relentless advance of nature. Number 4. Humberstone and Santa Laura, Chile. Humberstone and Santa Laura, nestled in the arid Atacama Desert of Chile, were once prosperous saltpeter mining towns. The towns were home to thousands of workers and their families, featuring theaters, hotels, and schools. Saltpeter was a valuable resource used for fertilizer and explosives. The town's abandonment occurred in the 20th century when synthetic nitrate production replaced the extraction of natural nitrate. The decline of the mining industry led to the town's gradual abandonment. Today, these UNESCO World Heritage Sites stand as haunting ghost towns, their structures well preserved, offering a window into the history of nitrate mining and the lives of those who once called these desolate landscapes home. Number 3. Krakow, Italy. Krakow, a picturesque hilltop town in southern Italy, has a history dating back to the Roman era. The town featured medieval architecture, a castle, and a rich cultural heritage, attracting both residents and visitors alike. Krakow's abandonment was triggered by natural disasters, including landslides and earthquakes, as well as unstable geology and poor living conditions. These factors forced the evacuation of Krakow's residents in the 1960s. The town now stands as a haunting and picturesque ghost town perched on a hill overlooking the surrounding valley, with its streets and buildings remaining frozen in time. Number 2. Oradour-sur-Glane, France. Before its tragic closure, Oradour-sur-Glane was a peaceful and idyllic French village, characterized by charming homes, shops, and a church. It was known for its tranquility and was home to a tight-knit community. The town's fate changed dramatically in 1944, when it became the site of a brutal massacre carried out by the Waffen-SS during WW2. In a horrific act, the village was destroyed, and its inhabitants were ended. In the aftermath, Oradour-sur-Glane was preserved as a memorial to the victims of the massacre, with a new village established nearby. Number 1. Pyramiden, Svalbard, Norway. Pyramiden, situated on Svalbard, an archipelago in the Arctic Ocean, was a Soviet coal mining town. The town featured schools, cultural facilities, and a towering statue of Lenin, and it was home to hundreds of residents who lived and worked in the harsh Arctic conditions. The closure of Pyramiden in 1998 was due to declining coal production and economic factors. Today, Pyramiden has become a unique and popular tourist destination, offering a glimpse into the Soviet past and the challenges of life in the Arctic, as well as serving as a testament to the durability of its structures in a harsh climate. Number 10. Thonis, Herakleion, and Alexandria. Long gone similar to Atlantis, Alexandria is shrouded in myths and mysteries, but this one is genuine. It has also been located. For the price of one, you can get access to 2 historic underwater cities. While Thonis Herakleion rests a bit further off the coast, the remains of Alexandria are situated a few feet off the coast. Considering that the ruins are over 2,000 years old and full of different shipwrecks, fallen anchors, and even lost and found gold treasures, both are remarkably well preserved. Similar to Venice, canals formerly divided the buildings and temples of Thonis Herakleion, although it is still unknown how and why the city was drowned. The remains of Alexandria will hopefully soon be visible through the projected underwater archaeological museum of Alexandria, even if Thonis Herakleion is still only accessible by scuba divers. Number 9. San Roma de Sau. Another community lost to flooding and another reservoir. In northeastern Spain, in Catalonia, between Barcelona and the French border, this 1,000-year-old town was completely buried during the 1960s. The people relocated, taking their possessions and the deceased with them, removing loved ones' remains from the grave. With the exception of the church spire, which towers over the water, the settlement remains underwater. At low tide, the entire church and the tops of adjacent buildings appear in an eerie spectacle that is only seen from the top of the spire. Number 8. Dwarka. In 1988, it was discovered that the 32,000-year-old underwater city of Dwarka, also known as the Gateway to Heaven, was submerged about 100 feet below the Gulf of Cambay. There were discovered ancient pillars, city grids, constructions, and artifacts. Some estimate their age at 10,000 years or more. Some speculate that they may be as old as 5,000 years. Still, others are certain that they originate from the Middle Ages. Others, however, assert that the Dwarka temple was demolished during an invasion on the city in 1473 by Mahmud Begada, the Sultan of Gujarat. In any case, this is a real underwater city that has been lost for a very long time and is amazing, mysterious, and full of folklore. Number 7. Lago di Vagli. At the base of this stunning lake in the Tuscan countryside is a medieval hamlet that embodies the legend of Brigadoon, the fabled Scottish village said to appear for just one day every 100 years. Due to a dam building, the settlement of Fabriche de Carigine, which dates back to the 12th century, has been underwater since 1953. But every now and again, the reservoir is drained for upkeep, and slowly, where there used to be a lake, a medieval village appears, almost as immaculate as it did centuries before. Number 6. The Lost Villages. Building a dam to span the St. Lawrence River between Cornwall, Ontario and Messina, New York was necessary for the construction of the St. Lawrence Seaway and hydroelectric project in the 1950s. 9 villages would be inundated during the development, which was the issue. People who could move their homes away on trailers were given plenty of notice, and some famous and public structures were preserved through relocation. The 9 villages became known as the Lost Villages of Ontario when the area was inundated. A Lost Villages museum in Longsalt honors the settlements. Number 5. Yonaguni-jima. The Atlantis of Japan is the Yonaguni Monument. Enigmatically and contentiously off the shore of the Ryukyu Islands are peculiarly shaped formations that some scientists think are exclusively human-made and indicate the remains of an ancient civilization that sank some 10,000 years ago. There have purportedly been discoveries of a pyramid-shaped building, an arch, staircases, and other formations, all of which have what appear to be ancient script inscriptions, suggesting the existence of a long-lost underwater society. Others claim that in contrast to the symmetrical basalt columns found in Iceland and on the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, the structures are naturally occurring. Number 4. Lion City. In 1959, a valley was inundated to make way for a hydropower plant and dam, creating Jiandao Lake, also known as the Lake of a Thousand Islands. About 300,000 people were moved, and Xicheng, also known as Lion City, was flooded. Was forgotten, that is until 2001, when an expedition headed by the government peered beneath the surface and discovered an underwater city that was essentially a time capsule of Imperial China, complete with gorgeous, ornately adorned buildings from the 1300s that were still immaculate. Experienced divers are in for a unique experience hunting for Chinese Atlantis. Number 3. Port Royal. On June 7, 1692, a strong earthquake and tsunami destroyed 2,000 lives and buried the Jamaican metropolis of Port Royal. Real-life Caribbean pirates called Port Royal home, and the city's sinking was attributed to divine intervention. It was once dubbed the wickedest city on earth. However, the pirates continued to advance along the coast unabated. Nowadays, it is considered one of the world's best preserved underwater cities, with only a few artifacts taken out and shown at several Jamaican museums. The authorities must provide you specific clearance before you can scuba dive to the sunken metropolis. Number 2. Tequina. Scientists exploring Lake Titicaca, the highest navigable body of water in the world that spans Bolivia and Peru, found a pre-Incan road, a 2,600-foot wall, a crop terrace, and a temple that was 660 feet long and 160 feet wide in 2000. The location, which is 90 miles northeast of La Paz, the capital of Bolivia, is believed to be a complex of temples that date back between 1,000 and 1,500 years. 9 years later, researchers found a reef in the lake filled with ancient artifacts such as gold and semi-precious stone pieces, adding to the riddles surrounding the submerged civilization that is still present in Lake Titicaca. Number 1. Bahia. Another once malevolent city sunk beneath the waves. This time the bad people were not pirates, but rather hedonistic Romans who went to Bahia, which is located on the Mediterranean coast about 18 miles outside of Naples, and is known as the Las Vegas of ancient Rome. The 2,000-year-old ruins are in excellent shape, and numerous complete statues as well as homes and temples have been discovered. Less than 20 feet separates the majority of the submerged metropolis, with some sections even visible above the water. You can use a snorkel to explore the archaeological park if you'd like. Number 10. Derinkuyu, Turkey. Derinkuyu's underground city is an engineering marvel that serves as a sanctuary for the people of Cappadocia during times of threat. Carved out of volcanic rock, the city descends 8 levels below the surface, reaching a depth of approximately 280 feet. Each level has a specific purpose, from living quarters to stables, storage rooms, and even a church. The ventilation system, featuring air shafts and wells, showcases the advanced planning and architectural skill of its ancient builders. Derinkuyu remained a well-kept secret for centuries until its rediscovery in 1963, revealing a subterranean world that could sustain a large population. Number 9. Matada, Tunisia. Matmada's troglodyte dwellings are a testament to human adaptation in the face of a challenging environment. The Berber people carved these unique homes into the soft limestone hills to create comfortable and naturally insulated spaces. The interconnected rooms form an underground village, with each pit serving as a living area. The design helps regulate temperature, providing cool shelters during the scorching heat of the day and warmth during chilly desert nights. Matmada gained international recognition when scenes from Star Wars were filmed there, bringing attention to the otherworldly beauty of its underground architecture. Number 8. Naples, Italy. The underground tunnels of Naples, known as the Napoli Sotterranea, weave through the city's historical layers. Originally constructed as Roman aqueducts, they later became shelters during WW2 bombings. The tunnels also housed clandestine meeting places for secret societies and provided storage for contraband goods. Exploring these underground passages offers a glimpse into the city's complex history, showcasing the multifaceted roles these tunnels played over the centuries. Number 7. Coober Pedy, Australia. In the arid landscape of the Australian outback, Coober Pedy's residents turned to the underground to escape the extreme temperatures. The town, known as the opal capital of the world, boasts homes, churches, and even hotels carved into the earth. These underground structures provide insulation from the scorching heat, creating a unique living experience. Beyond residences, Coober Pedy's opal mines extend underground, emphasizing the town's reliance on the subterranean world for both shelter and livelihood. Number 6. Wieliczka Salt Mine, Poland. The Wieliczka Salt Mine, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is a subterranean wonder that goes beyond its primary function as a salt mine. Carved over centuries, the mine features intricate salt sculptures, chapels, and even an underground lake. Miners transform the harsh working conditions into a place of artistic expression and religious devotion. The Chapel of St. Kinga, entirely carved from salt, stands as a testament to the miners' craftsmanship and dedication to creating a unique underground masterpiece. Number 5. Shanghai Tunnels, USA. Portland's Shanghai tunnels have a dark and mysterious history rooted in the 19th century practice of Shanghaiing. These underground passages were connected to bars and hotels, providing covert routes for criminal activities. Victims would be kidnapped, waking up aboard ships, forced into maritime labor. The tunnels, with their hidden chambers and secret exits, served as a clandestine network for illicit operations, leaving an undeniable mark on the city's past. Number 4. Montreal's underground city in Canada. Montreal's underground city, known as Réseau, is a vast and intricate network of interconnected tunnels, pedestrian walkways, and indoor spaces located beneath the city's bustling streets. It is one of the most extensive underground complexes in the world, covering over 20 miles or 32 kilometers and connecting various key points in the downtown area. The development of Réseau began in the 1960s as a response to Montreal's harsh winter climate. The city planners aimed to create an indoor environment that would allow residents and visitors to navigate the city comfortably during the cold winter months. The underground network initially started as a series of pedestrian walkways and tunnels connecting shopping centers, offices, and transit hubs. Number 3. Kiche Tunnels, Vietnam. The Kiche Tunnels, located near Ho Chi Minh City, played a crucial role during the Vietnam conflict. This extensive network of narrow tunnels served as a hidden stronghold for the Viet Cong. Used for living quarters, storage, and communication, the tunnels allowed guerrilla fighters to operate covertly against better equipped American forces. The ingenuity of the Kiche Tunnels showcases the resourcefulness and resilience of those who fought during this tumultuous period in history. Number 2. Reims, France. During WW1, Reims played a crucial role as it became a focal point on the Western Front. The city endured heavy bombardment, and much of its architectural heritage, including the cathedral, suffered damage. However, the resilience of the city's residents and the determination to rebuild led to the restoration of Reims after the conflict. Beneath the charming streets and historic buildings, Reims hides another layer of history, its extensive network of chalk quarries. These quarries, dating back centuries, were originally created for mining chalk used in construction. During WW1, as the city faced intense shelling and bombings, the residents sought refuge in these underground spaces. Number 1. Edinburgh Vaults in Scotland. The Edinburgh Vaults, nestled beneath the South Bridge, began as storage spaces for businesses in the 18th century. However, as the city expanded, these underground chambers took on a darker role. Abandoned by businesses, the vaults became a haven for illicit activities, housing illegal taverns, gambling dens, and storage for stolen goods. The damp and eerie atmosphere, combined with tales of paranormal encounters, adds an air of mystery to these forgotten subterranean spaces, making them a captivating part of Edinburgh's history.
Coming in at a number 10 spot, we have the Fukushima nuclear power plant. The Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant in Japan experienced a catastrophic disaster in 2011 after a powerful earthquake and tsunami hit the region. The damage caused the cooling systems of the reactors to fail, putting them in danger of a meltdown. Although Fukushima Daini was shut down in 2 days, the Daiichi plant was not as fortunate. The disaster resulted in 3 nuclear meltdowns, explosions, and even the release of radioactive material in the surrounding areas, which resulted to the Pacific Ocean being heavily contaminated. The Fukushima disaster is considered the most significant incident of its kind, and second only to our number 1 entry. The disaster had a far-reaching impact as it led to a 4-stage evacuation order, affecting thousands of people who live nearby. Many people lost their homes and were forced to relocate due to the dangerous levels of radiation. But despite the disaster, the Japanese government continued to operate other nuclear power plants in the country. And if you look at it on a much grander scale, nuclear energy is the cleanest. Although many of you guys would like to deny that, it is. But regardless, these type of disasters is the main reason for us looking towards renewable energy sources, with Japan increasing its investment in solar, wind, and all other forms of clean energy. The aftermath of the Fukushima disaster is still being felt today. The region continues to grapple with the environmental and health impacts of the disaster, while the plant itself remains a major concern in the region. At a number 9 spot, we have the Hanford site. Hanford nuclear site in eastern Washington, one of the 3 sites that made up the government's covert Manhattan Project, is the most contaminated place in the United States, if not the world. The facility produced plutonium for the atomic bomb dropped on Nagasaki. Today, it is home to 56 million gallons of nuclear waste, leaking storage tanks, and contaminated soil. Hanford is an environmental disaster and a catastrophe in waiting, writes journalist Joshua Frank in his new book, Atomic Days, The Untold Story of the Most Toxic Place in America. Hanford is shrouded in secrecy, which began with the Manhattan Program, and even now, it's still very much like a covert operation because of the dangers that exist with the potential for an attack on one of the nuclear waste tanks. Hanford is also the costliest environmental project the world has ever seen. The known environmental dangers of Hanford include 177 underground tanks that hold about 56 million gallons of nuclear waste, as I mentioned before, 67 of which have been leaked in the past into groundwater that feeds into the Columbia River. Coming in at a number 8 spot, we have the elephant's foot. In 1986, a catastrophic nuclear accident occurred at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine. 8 months later, workers discovered a startling phenomenon, a black lava that had flowed from the reactor core, resembling a human-made volcano. One hardened mass in particular was particularly shocking and was nicknamed the elephant's foot because it resembled the foot of the massive mammal. The lava formation was found to be so highly radioactive that it would just take 5 minutes for a person to receive a lethal amount of exposure. The elephant's foot weighs an estimated 2.2 tons and is known as lava-like fuel containing material. It has remained a macabre object of fascination since its discovery. The elephant's foot is composed of a rare substance called corium, which is produced in a nuclear accident where nuclear fuel and parts of the reactor core structures overheat and melt, forming this weird mixture. Corium has only been formed naturally 5 times in history. Once during the 3 Mile Island accident in Pennsylvania in 1979, once at Chernobyl, and 3 times at the Fukushima Daiichi plant disaster in Japan in 2011. It's said that everyone who came in contact with the foot passed away shortly after. However, to this day, this is not confirmed. And also, there's no way of getting rid of it, so it's just laying there forever, waiting for its next victims to come across. Number 7, the Siberian Chemical Combine. The Siberian chemical compound in Seversk, Russia was established to produce weapons-grade plutonium and highly enriched uranium on a massive scale. The plant is located in a closed town, requiring access documents to be shown at every single checkpoint. The top 7 reprocessing complex at the plant was the site of one of Russia's worst nuclear accidents in 1993. During the cleaning of a tank with nitric acid, it overheated and caused a large explosion, severely radiating the plant and significantly raising levels of radioactivity in the surrounding areas. Although the facility's plutonium and uranium production capabilities were shut down after the accident, the isolated and remote plant continues to store low and intermediate levels of nuclear waste for weapons and radioactive waste. The plant's location within a closed town and the lack of oversight from government agencies raises concerns about the safety of nuclear materials stored at the site, and some say that even walking in this place for 30 to 50 minutes is enough to end your life. So just beware if you're ever in Russia for whatever reason. Number 6, we're back to Russia with Mayak Russia. In the far-flung reaches of Russia's northeast lies the industrial complex of Mayak, home to a nuclear power plant that has been operating for decades. But the legacy of Mayak is far from one of progress and advancement. In fact, it has become synonymous with disaster and environmental devastation. In 1957, Mayak was the site of one of the world's worst nuclear accidents, when an explosion released up to 100 tons of radioactive waste into surrounding areas, contaminating it for decades to come. The explosion was kept under wraps by Soviet officials until the 1980s, when the true extent of the damage was finally revealed to the public. But the disaster at Mayak was not an isolated incident. Starting in the 1950s, waste from the nuclear power plant was dumped into surrounding areas and into the nearby lake Kiche, leading to the contamination of the water supply that thousands of people relied on daily. Over 400,000 people had been exposed to radiation from the plant as a result of the various serious incidents that have occurred here, including fires, deadly dust storms, you name it. The aftermath of Mayak's nuclear plant has left a legacy of environmental devastation and human suffering in the area, and it's really sad just to know that this all actually happened. In the Hanford list, we have Lake Kiche. Lake Kiche was once the most contaminated body of water on Earth due to radioactive pollution. It was located near the Mayak Production Association, which was a nuclear facility that was established in 1945 as the primary production facility for the Soviet nuclear weapons program. The plant's crude reactors were designed to create weapons-grade isotopes with little regard for safety. The contaminated waste was initially dumped into the nearby Teka River, which led to dangerously high levels of radiation in communities downriver of the plant. In 1951, the worst of the waste was diverted to Lake Kiche, and this practice continued until the 1990s. The radioactivity of the lake is both in its water and in the layer of radioactive sludge that lines the lake bed. Measurements taken by the same group of scientists found that the earth around the lake had a specific activity of 740,000 megabecquerel per kilogram. And that just by standing near the shore, you'd be exposed to a dose of 5.6 sievert per hour. The lake began to be filled and concreted over in the mid-1990s, with the project wrapping up in 2015. However, the damage had been already done, and the legacy of the catastrophe will endure for centuries. Number 4, the Polygon. The vast and desolate region of modern-day Kazakhstan was once used by the Soviet Union for nuclear weapons testing. Despite being home to over 700,000 people, the area was deemed uninhabited by Soviet officials, making it the perfect location for the USSR's atomic bomb program. The nuclear site was where the USSR detonated its first nuclear bomb, marking the beginning of a dark chapter in history that saw the largest concentration of nuclear explosions ever recorded. Over a period of 40 years, from 1949 to 1989, the facility saw a staggering 456 nuclear tests as the USSR sought to flex its military might on the world stage. But the impact of the testing and its devastating effects on the environment and human health were kept under wraps from the public, with the Soviets only revealing the extent of the radiation exposure when the facility was closed down in 1991. The consequences of the Soviet Union's nuclear ambitions has been far-reaching, with an estimated 200,000 people suffering from the direct health effects of radiation exposure. The desire to destroy foreign nations has left a dark legacy of nuclear contamination hanging over the heads of those who were once citizens of the USSR. Number 3, Gana Brazil. In 1987, a seemingly routine break-in at an abandoned hospital in Gana Brazil ended up causing a devastating tragedy. Two robbers looking for scrap metal stumbled upon a small capsule of highly radioactive cesium chloride, which had been used in a radiotherapy device. The robbers unknowingly took the dangerous material with them, spreading the radiation throughout the entire city. Tragically, 4 people lost their lives as a result of the radiation exposure. The contamination spread very quickly, and several city blocks had been demolished due to the high levels of radiation. In total, over 300 people suffered from radioactive contamination, and radiophobia swept through the entire city. More than 100,000 people were queued to be screened for radiation exposure, fearing the worst. To combat the radiation, topsoil was removed from several contaminated sites, including schools, homes, and hospitals. Levels as high as 2 sieverts an hour were found in some locations, which is 200 times the annual dose limit for workers in the nuclear industry. It took months to decontaminate the affected areas, and even today, some parts of the city still remain contaminated. Number 2, Somalias Coast. Organized crime and nuclear waste may not seem like they go hand in hand, but in Somalia, it's a different story. Over a period of years, an Italian crime syndicate called the Ndrangheta allegedly loaded ships with nuclear waste and then sank them off the coast of Somalia and other developing African countries. This has contaminated the water and caused long-term damage to the environment. For background information, Somalia has been in a state of civil war for many years, which has prevented the formation of a strong government. This means that illegal dumping of nuclear waste was able to go unnoticed for many years, starting in the 1980s. Swiss and Italian companies are thought to have used the area as a dumping ground for years, and as a result, the waters surrounding the coast of Somalia are reportedly highly toxic and radioactive. The dumping has caused damage to the environment and to the people who were living in the area, with many cities and other small towns having to completely abandon their homes because of the deadly effects of radiation. There's even been rumors that the dumping is still going on, so it looks like this will pose a bigger and bigger threat as time goes by. Number 1, Chernobyl. We all knew this one was going to be on this list. The Chernobyl disaster of 1986 was one of the most devastating nuclear accidents in history. It occurred at the Chernobyl nuclear plant in Ukraine and resulted from a combination of flawed reactor design and human error. The disaster led to acute radiation syndrome in at least 237 people on site. Although nobody off-site suffered from acute radiation effects, large areas of Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia and beyond were contaminated in varying degrees. The Chernobyl disaster was a unique event in the history of commercial nuclear power where radiation-related facilities occurred. The reactor's design was unique, and the accident is thus of little relevance to the rest of the nuclear industry outside the Eastern Bloc. However, it has led to major changes in safety culture and industry cooperation, particularly between the East and West before the end of the Soviet Union. Well, these are the top 10 most radioactive abandoned places in the world. What did you guys think about this list? Leave a comment down below with your thoughts and some suggestions for our future videos. I'm your host Andrew, and be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification. I hope you guys have a scary day.